This week on The Thinking Muslim, we have an urgent message from Dr. Abdallah Marouf.
I never felt that there is a very close and imminent danger to the entity of Al-Aqsa Mosque as I'm feeling now.
Dr. Abdallah is a Palestinian academic and former media and public relations officer at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He serves as a professor of Islamic history in Istanbul. This rabbi who recently gave a speech, Israelis would bomb Masjid al-Aqsa.
I would pretend that one missile came from Iran and shoot it down, Then all the Arabs will go against Iran, it will be the end of the problems. You make them fight with each other, this bunch of lunatics.
And build the third temple in its place.
Red heifer has to be burnt. It is a ritual that has to be done in order to purify a person, in order to be able to enter the house of God or the Temple Mount. We're living in the Zionist religious Israel. Now, the prophecy is not the problem. The problem is you believe that you have to bring the apocalypse to the whole world. These fanatics are so possessed with this idea. This is the new Israel. They believe that they are acting on behalf of God. It shows us that the whole world is in imminent danger.
Dr. Abdallah Marouf, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to The Thinking Muslim.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah fiqh. It's wonderful to have you with us. Now, today we're going to talk about a very grave subject, a subject that is close to all of our hearts, and that is the fate of Masjid al-Aqsa, the fate of the compound, the fate of Jerusalem.
Yes.
And you have a special position because you used to work in Masjid al-Aqsa, and you were involved in media and public relations for the mosque. So alhamdulillah, I think it's imperative that we get to understand some of the complexities that are currently surrounding the politics and the social scene of this region, of this area, and some of the dangers, I think, that the Muslim Ummah at large face when it comes to Masjid al-Aqsa. Now, you must have seen on social media and elsewhere this rabbi who recently gave a speech about staging a false flag operation above in Jerusalem, where the result would be that Iranian missiles would be fired, and then the Israelis would bomb Masjid al-Aqsa, get rid of it, and build the third temple in its place. And he even went on to say that the Arabs will start fighting the Iranians, and this will
blame Iran.
Blame Iran for it, where Iran didn't do it, but of course the Israelis did. Is this a view of just a fringe rabbi, or do you feel that this view has now taken hold across Israeli society?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, actually, this is quite an important issue, and it's quite a beginning for our talk today. Why? Because this speech by this rabbi, his name something Mizrahi, I think. He was speaking about this idea, this wild idea. On June, last June, when during the first clash between Iran and Israel, during that time, he was speaking about that time.
Yeah.
So he said after the 12 days clash, he said that if it was me, I would have done that. Now, why taking this video again and publish it this time? It is actually because there is some kind of a feeling around the area, and some kind of a feeling amongst Muslims that something could happen to Masjid al-Aqsa during these days.
Yeah.
And this idea could be clicking into minds of some extremists in Israel. And that is why it was published again, in order just to tell the Israelis that don't even think about it. Because if you think about it, if anything happens to Masjid al-Aqsa, it's just a warning that we will know that it is you. And by the way, even the Iranian media published it again, and they said exactly the same, that if, la samahallah, may Allah forbid, anything happens, it would not be Iran, it would be the Israelis. Now, would it be an idea or just a fringe? Actually, if this question was to be asked, let's say, about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I would say that was just a fringe. But now, since 2022, even before the war in Gaza, Since 2022, when this government, the latest government of Benjamin Netanyahu, or the far-right government, as it is known, or the religious Zionism government, before it was, or since it was formed, everything can be considered legitimate, and everything can be considered serious with this government. Why? Because this stream believe in a different in politics in a different way than any other politician used to think about it. Israel passed throughout its history, since the Nakba, since 1948 and the establishment of Israel. Israel passed through, I can call it, three forms of government. The first government from 1948 until 1977, Israel was ruled by the, if I can say, the East, the left parties. Parties believe in the European way, and they believe that Israel should be a European country, a liberated country, and a liberal country. In addition to the idea of not even respecting the religion, but just using the religion to show the world that this is the Jewish state, and the Jewish homeland, in order to attract the Jewish communities around the world in order to emigrate to Israel. Now, that was led by the Labour Party at that time, the Israeli Labour Party, until 1977. In 1977, a change happened when the Likud party, under Menachem Begin at that time, won the elections for the first time. And they started actually entering the politics in Israel. And that was the beginning of the right nationalist parties, of course, represented at that time by the Likud. Now, the right nationalist parties do not believe in the religious state, but they respect the religious parties in Israel, and they respect the Haridis, for example, and the Sephardims, and the ideas of these religious parties are respected in order to use them for the benefit of the nationalist right wing in Israel. This continued until 2003, when the Labour Party just lost for the last time, and they would never ever come back to the politics in Israel, never take the politics in Israel and they take the government. But since 2022, a major shift happened. Now, this is, I usually call it the third Israel, was established in 2022 by this government. Why? Because this government is led by a new kind of right wing. It is the religious Zionism stream, as it is called, Hatzionit Hadatit in Hebrew. Now, this stream does not believe in using religion for politics. It's actually exactly the vice versa, exactly the opposite. They believe in using the politics for religious reasons. And they believe in using the politics of the government and the politics of the state in order to fulfill the religious ideas that are mentioned in the holy books and the religious understanding of the apocalypse and the Messiah, the first coming of the Messiah, of course, from the Jewish point of view. And this is the thing that is being applied by Smotrich, Ben Gvir, and other members of this stream since 2022 until now.
Is Netanyahu ideologically wedded to this tradition?
Absolutely not. Netanyahu is not part of this stream. But the relationship between Netanyahu and this stream, he believes in Greater Israel, and he mentioned it. He mentioned it very many times. He mentioned that he is committed to make the idea of Great Israel from the Euphrates to the Nile a fact. But that's a different issue, because he thinks about it from not a religious point of view, but from a nationalist point of view. However, when it comes to the relationship between Benjamin Netanyahu and this stream, or the Tzionit Hadatit stream, it is that Benjamin Netanyahu believes that he is using their power in order to remain in power in the government, in order to avoid going to jail. And that's as easy as that. This is why, by the way, the Americans tried to push for him to be pardoned by the Israeli president Herzog many times in order just to get rid of this problem, because Benjamin Netanyahu does not want to lose power, because he knows that the second day after losing the power, he will be in jail. And from the other part, from the other side, now these groups believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is the best person to lead this government on their behalf. Why? Because he needs them. So they are just taking him as a cover, and he's taking them as a cover. So it's just like, a relationship between two parties. Each one of them is giving the other, and it is a win-win relationship for the two parties.
Right.
So that's why I do think that such an idea, such a crazy idea of, may Allah forbid, bombing or destroying or harming Masjid al-Aqsa, taking advantage with all this war on Iran thing, it could be thought about within this government, this very government.
Right.
And here we shall not forget what happened at the beginning of the war in Gaza, when the Minister of Heritage in Israel, who is part of this group, the Tzionit Datit, he said that he was the one who suggested bombing Gaza with a nuclear bomb. So these ideas of just mass change around the world and taking everything by massive force is not strange from these people, and this is why I don't think that it has to be taken as a fringe now.
Right.
It has to be taken seriously now.
Recently, I met a viewer who told me something that stopped me in my tracks. The thinking Muslim didn't just inform him, it fundamentally changed how he sees the world. And that wasn't a one-off. A leader of the global Sumud convoy explained that one of our episodes moved him from passive viewing to meaningful action. A young man from Sudan shared that he learned English by listening to the show and is now inspired to serve the Ummah. Madrasas had integrated the podcast into their university curriculum. From day one, The Thinking Muslim was never meant to be just another podcast. It was built on a simple conviction that our Ummah deserves media rooted in faith, justice, and intellectual seriousness. Media that strengthens Iman while confronting the world honestly and courageously. We are now dubbing our content into multiple languages. We have launched new collaborations, including a program with Imam Tom Fakini and a youth-focused show for the next generation. And by taking The Thinking Muslim on the road, I have seen firsthand the hunger within our Ummah for substance, depth, and principled leadership. What comes next is even more ambitious. A history show told with meaning for today, a series on transformative figures, a political seerah, and content designed especially for children. The vision alone is not enough. To build studios, train presenters, and create professional media that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best, we need sustained support from people who believe this work matters. Join us today, become a member at thinkingmuslim.com/membership. And help us build what our community truly deserves.
And this idea that, or this feeling that Masjid al-Aqsa is in imminent danger is compounded by the fact that for the last 10 days, now we're speaking on Monday the 9th of March, for the last 10 days, the mosque has effectively been shut to all prayers?
Completely.
Right.
Yes.
Why?
Well, the Israelis tried to, at the beginning, they took advantage of the war. They said that because of the war and, because of the war, there must be no gathering and no mass gathering in the holy sites. And this is why they banned the prayer in Masjid al-Aqsa, and they banned entry completely from Masjid al-Aqsa. But let's take into consideration a few facts here. First, the Israelis, we know that the Israelis and the Americans were planning the time and date of this war on Iran many weeks ago. And that means that they knew that they are going to attack on that day, on that very day. And that means that closure of Masjid al-Aqsa was planned from the beginning.
Really?
We have many reports from Masjid al-Aqsa where the Israeli policemen used to say to the people, either praying people or worshippers, or sometimes even to some of the workers in Masjid Al-Aqsa, in the Muslim Waqf, that prepare, if any war happens, the Al-Aqsa Mosque will be closed. So this is fact number one. Fact number two, let's take into consideration what happened at the beginning of Ramadan. At the beginning of Ramadan, the Israeli government tried to, or provoked, actually not tried, they actually provoked a problem between them and the Israeli police and the Muslim Waqf.
Yeah.
When they ordered the head of the Muslim Waqf department in Masjid Al-Aqsa, Sheikh Hazam al-Khatib, to come to the Israeli police station in the old city of Jerusalem, and that is actually against the status quo, because they usually come to his office inside Masjid Al-Aqsa and do any arrangements. So they asked him to come. They ordered him actually to come in a very problematic way, if I can say. They tried to make the man very angry or feel humiliated. They tried to humiliate the person, and he said no, because he's an official an official person, and he represents an official entity that is being guarded by the Jordanian-Israeli peace treaty. So he refused. And after he refused, from the beginning of Ramadan, the Israeli policemen prevented iftar in Masjid Al-Aqsa. They prevented sahur for the workers in Masjid Al-Aqsa completely. They banned the Muslim Waqf from spreading the umbrellas for the Muslims all around the Dome of the Rock, in order not to be able to pray inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque, because because of the numbers that usually come. They have to pray in the courtyards, and usually at the beginning of Ramadan, they cover the courtyards around the Dome of the Rock, especially for the women, with umbrellas, and they banned the umbrellas, and they banned even the preparation of the only first aid clinic in Masjid Al-Aqsa since that time. And these actions made the entrance to Masjid Al-Aqsa very hard, and they tightened every aspect of entering in Masjid Al-Aqsa and worshipping inside Masjid Al-Aqsa from the beginning of Ramadan. So that means that closure of Masjid Al-Aqsa was actually planned in itself. So it's not as, it didn't come as a result of what happened of the war. No, it came as a planned issue and a completely understandable, according to them, planning that they wanted to apply at that time. And we noticed something at the beginning there. And on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of Ramadan, it coincided with the the Purim celebrations. Now, during the Purim celebrations, the Israeli police allowed the Israeli masses to gather and celebrate and pray, either for celebrations or for praying. So why didn't they apply this for the Muslims during this such a very important religious days, such as Ramadan? Unless they wanted actually Masjid Al-Aqsa to be empty in Ramadan, because they know that Ramadan is the hardest month in the year for the Israelis, because of the big masses of the Muslims who attend Masjid Al-Aqsa in Ramadan. And last Friday, the third Friday of Ramadan, Masjid Al-Aqsa was completely closed. And for the first time under the Israeli occupation, they banned the prayer in Masjid Al-Aqsa in a Friday on a Ramadan under the war. So it happened only, since 1967, it happened only 4 times. But every time it was because of a reason, and many of these times it was either, at the beginning it was the occupation 1967, and afterwards it was because of certain circumstances, and it was applied by the Muslim Waqf, such as, for example, during the COVID. But now it was the first time that the Israelis applied it without any acceptance or any relationship with the Muslims on this issue.
I suppose my question is, if we link those questions together, do you feel that there's an imminent threat to Masjid Al-Aqsa?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. I have never been so sure that there is an imminent great danger over Masjid Al-Aqsa as I am these days.
Wow, really?
I've been working on Masjid al-Aqsa's issues since 1998. And I worked in Masjid al-Aqsa during the time in the second Intifada in 2000. So I've been working in Masjid al-Aqsa for more than now about 29 years, 28, 29 years. So I never felt that there is a very close and imminent danger to the entity of Al-Aqsa Mosque as I'm feeling now.
Really?
It has never been so imminent, has never been so clear to us that Al-Aqsa Mosque is in a great danger of being lost completely from the hands of Muslims as it is now under this government, under these fanatics who are now ruling Israel and the new Israel, because they are now actually not only ruling this government, they took control of the whole country since 2022 because they changed the head of the Ramatkal, or the head of the army. They changed the head of the Shabak, the Israeli internal intelligences. They are trying to change even the head of the judicial body in Israel. So they are now building a new state that is actually a fanatic religious Zionist state, as according to their understanding, which does not work to apply political reasons by using religion, as I mentioned before, but the opposite. They're trying to use the current situation and use the current state and the current political situation in order to apply the religious fantasies of the mythology that they are speaking about, the apocalypse and the end of the world, in order just to bring the Messiah again, or not again, for the first time.
I mean, you've surprised me. You've winded me there. Why are we not talking about this? I mean, I used to think that if there was a plot, an imminent plot to destroy Masjid al-Aqsa, the whole Muslim Ummah would not only be actively talking about this matter, but also there would be a revolution, there would be revolts, there would be Muslim leaders who would be advocating for the status quo.
Yeah.
But after Gaza, I don't know. I mean, we've just seen the annihilation of a people and silence.
Well, let me tell you something. Usually, people do not usually concentrate on many things at the same time. So when Israel provoked the war in Gaza, they actually provoked the same war on Jerusalem.
Right.
And they provoked the same war on the West Bank. They started demolishing houses in Jerusalem. For example, I'll give you one example. The number of the houses that were demolished in Jerusalem throughout the 2 years of the war in Gaza were more than the whole number of houses demolished in Jerusalem since 1967.
Really?
So within 2 years, they demolished more homes that they've done throughout 50 years, or more than 55 years. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the Israeli government works actually on different directions at the same time. And they have different bodies that are related to this and this and this and this issue. Now, with regarding to Masjid al-Aqsa, there is actually a body that is only related to Masjid al-Aqsa and only works with Masjid al-Aqsa. And this is something called the administration of the Temple Mount. And it's just a body it's an official body that was established by some fanatics, and they called themselves the administration of Masjid al-Aqsa, or the Temple Mount. And the Israeli government started working with them and dealing with them as if they are the de facto administration in Masjid al-Aqsa, which is quite disturbing, which means that it is actually done by the government. It is absolutely accepted by the government, or if it is not actually done by the government itself. So now, with regarding to the Muslim Ummah, at the same time, the Muslim Ummah is being hit throughout these years by many fires here and there and here and there. Now, when the war in Gaza started, a lot of people used to ignore everything because of the bloodshed that was done in Gaza. For God's sake, it was just genocide that was happening in Gaza, and it's still going on there. And now, when it comes to the war in Iran, it is absolutely the same for the people usually to concentrate on the trend, if I can call it. And in this context, Israel acts as a regime which has got specific goals and specific ways and specific times to do these goals. And these goals are being done by specific bodies in the government that are not related to the other parts. For example, when it comes to Masjid Al-Aqsa, there are some parts of the government that is only concentrating on Masjid Al-Aqsa and what is happening inside it and how to deal with it. And they don't care about anything that is happening outside this context. Yeah. Now, the problem with the Muslim governments here, if I were to take it to the government level, the Arab and Muslim governments are not convinced yet that there is a major change or major shift in the Israeli politics and policies. They do not understand the change that happened in the core of the Israeli state. Now, we're trying to tell them that you have to understand that there is a major shift, a major change, and this change is not temporary. This is exactly as what happened since 1996. When Benjamin Netanyahu, I remember that, when Benjamin Netanyahu won the elections, the first elections ever, for him, of course, in 1996, the Palestinian Authority and the Arab world, the Arab leaders, the Muslim leaders, felt or believed, if I could say, that this was only temporary. And that the Labour Party, the party of peace and loving...
Was it ever like that?
Yeah, well, this is what they understood at the time of Yitzhak Rabin, for example. They thought that the days of Yitzhak Rabin are going to come back one day. But that was in 1996, and it was now 30 years since that time, and Benjamin Netanyahu is the king of Israel now, the longest lasting Prime Minister of Israel. So they do not understand what is happening within the core of Israel. Unfortunately, when it comes to the change, it is real, but it is not understandable until time just passes and it's too late. So this is why we are just calling all the time, calling for the governments, for the Muslims, generally the Muslim public as well, to understand that there is a new Israel in front of you. And that's not only for the Muslim Ummah, by the way, but we're speaking not only for the Muslim Ummah, we're speaking for the whole world. Yeah. Why? Because these fanatics who are now taking control of Israel do not believe that it's just building the temple or building whatever is going to bring the Messiah. They believe that one of the main reason or main conditions for the coming of Messiah, some of them believe that the world must be at the edge of a destroying war. So God has to interfere at that very last second and let the Messiah come and save the world. So what does that mean? It means that they believe that they have to drag the whole world for a world war so that God has to interfere at the last minute.
In Wajir, Kenya, pregnancy should be a time of hope. Instead, too many mothers face risk. Here, drought, food insecurity, and limited access to healthcare have created one of the most challenging maternal health environments in the country. Nearly 8 out of 10 women lack adequate nutrition, and maternal mortality remains among the highest in the country. For many mothers, something as simple as nutritious food can mean the difference between life and loss. This Ramadan, join us in saving mothers' lives, support nutrition programs, expand maternal health care, and help ensure that every mother in Wajir has the chance not just to give life, but to live. Support mamas and babies with Beit al-Mal. Turn your compassion into hope.
Visit btml.us/thinkingmuslim to learn more and give.
So I do want to talk to you about these fanatical opinions. But can I ask you about the Temple Mount? So the idea is the third temple. The idea is to build the third temple on the ashes of Masjid Al-Aqsa. Like, just go through the theology of that. Like, what's the idea behind the third temple? Where does it come from? How credible it is? I know of course, we question the credibility of these sources because we believe in the ultimate revelation of Quran. But I'm saying from their perspective, how credible are these sources?
You see, there is one note here. First, I'm going to give the note, then I'm going to give the perspective, the perspective. One note here. I remember that once Benjamin Netanyahu was standing in the Knesset, I think, and he said that Jerusalem is mentioned in the Bible, which is the Old Testament for him, the Torah, more than 600 times, and it's not mentioned in the Quran at all. So the word Yerushalayim or Jerusalem. So it was so funny for me. Why? Because Jerusalem is not mentioned in the first 5 chapters or 5 books of the Torah at all. And we have in Nablus, for example, we have a group of Jewish people who are the Samarites, who do not believe in the whole, they only believe in the first 5 books of the Torah. And that means that Jerusalem is not even mentioned in the books that they believe in, from Genesis all the way. So it was quite funny for me to have this comparison done in this arrogant way by Benjamin Netanyahu. So that's just a point here. But let's say from the perspective of the Israelis, and who believes in this idea of the third temple. They believe that when God gave the tablets to Moses, and the Israelites started their journey in the wilderness, God was going with them, guiding them throughout this wilderness. And every time they used to rest in a place, he used to sit with his word, his written word, which is in the tablet, which was put in the Ark of Covenant. He was resting with them all the time in a tent, at the tent of gathering. And the tent used to be taken everywhere, whereas when it was built, the offerings were given to God in front of that, which is the sacrifice of animals, and it remained until they reached Jerusalem. Now, when they reached Jerusalem during the time of King David, who's not believed as a prophet, by the way, in the Bible, so they believed that when King David took over Jerusalem, God told him that I want to have a house. And now this house, I'm going to reside in this house with my people. And this house has to be built on the Holy of Holies, Kodesh HaKodashim. Why the Kodesh of Kodashim, or Kodesh HaKodashim, or Holy of Holies? So Holy of Holies, according to the biblical understanding, is the rock inside the Dome of the Rock.
Right.
And this is why, by the way, the demolition, or everything that when they speak about demolition, destroying, they concentrate on the Dome of the Rock, because it is the Holy of Holies, the rock itself.
Right.
And they believe that the rock is the Holy of Holies because it is the place where the covenant was done between Abraham and God, when Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son Isaac. Well, of course, Muslims believe that that sacrifice happened in Mecca, and that it was done with Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, Ishmael. But they believe that it was done for Isaac, and the place was on that rock itself.
Right.
So that was why Solomon, not David, because David had blood on his hands, and this is why Solomon, his son, King Solomon, built the first house of God, where God resided next to his word. So you see, the word represents the covenant. The place represents the covenant. And the house represents the ultimate goal of having God residing with his people. That was how the idea or the ideology of the temple developed in Judaism. So when it was destroyed for the first time, when the Israelites did sin in the eyes of God, it was destroyed, and the Ark of Covenant was lost. So the written word of God was lost, and was written again by in Babylon. So after that, during the Achaemenid or the Persian invasion of the area of the region, the Israelites were allowed to reside again, and the second temple, or the temple of Zerubbabel, was built. Now, by the way, the temple that we see in pictures today does not represent the second temple of Zerubbabel. It represents the renovation or rebuilding of the temple at the time of before just Jesus Isa appeared. So this is why some Christians, I listen to some Christians sometimes claim that, saying that that was the third building of the temple and the Messiah came, which was Jesus Christ. But we know that the Jews do not accept Jesus Isa as the Messiah. So they believe that it was not the third temple, the temple of Herod. It was just a renovation of the temple of Zerubbabel.
Right.
So the temple of Herod was just a renovation according to this understanding, to this narration from this perspective. And it was rebuilt and God resided with his people until it was destroyed again after at the hands of Titus. Now, the idea here comes that 2,000 years ago, there was this second temple from a, as I mentioned, from a biblical point of view, and was destroyed. So the idea developed later on that the third building of the temple would be the last building.
How later on?
Now, it is actually, it is when God decides that the repentance of his people is accepted. And at this point, God will allow his people to build the temple. And by the way, some rabbis believe that the third temple will not even built. It will come down from heaven. Some believe that no, it will be built. So it is actually different in many ideas, and it has got many aspects of understanding in Judaism today, and not only today, throughout history. And some believe that God will allow his house to be built for the third and final time. And at that time, when it comes, the Messiah will come and he will rule forever with the Israelites, and with the people will be united with God, and the whole world will be united into one religion, which is the religion of God, believing in God. So actually, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, because it is complicated with differences, many different aspects on this issue and different perspectives from this side or from that side. As I mentioned before, for example, some rabbis believe that the Messiah will come and the third temple will just descend from heaven. Some believe that no, the third temple has to be built by human beings, and this is how then the Messiah comes. Some believe that that the temple has to be built and then destroyed, and then the Messiah comes. Some believe that the Messiah will come first, and then the temple will be built by all human beings. So when the Messiah comes, I was told once by a rabbi that from his perspective, he said, well, we believe, he and his group believe that when the Messiah comes, the glory of God will come with him and you. He pointed at me, you and all your people and all the people of the world will witness the greatness of God and the glory of God, and all of us will believe in one religion, and we will together build the house of God, the third and final house of God. That is the idea of the third temple. Unfortunately, the fanatics who are taking control of the Israeli government today believe in an idea called the hand of God, which means that we are the hand of God that makes all the circumstances on earth ready for God to have to fulfill his promises, and he has to send the Messiah. So that means they believe that we have to build the temple, the third temple on the site of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and this is when God finds the world needing his Messiah, and he will send the Messiah.
I mean, there are active movements in Israel and beyond in America that are actually organizing not only symbolic meetings, but actually organizing plans for the mosques, preparing priestly garments, temple vessels. It seems like this is not just a religious fantasy. there is a movement now behind replace it.
That's right.
Masjid al-Aqsa, Dome of the Rock, with the third temple.
Yes, that is absolutely right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely right. And actually, this is coming in the United States, for example, more than it is happening in Israel. And by the way, it is happening amongst the evangelicals more than it's happening in Christian evangelicals, more than it's happening amongst the some Jewish communities as well.
Yeah.
So it is quite interesting to see how this goal is being done in two different directions. However, all of them are taking the same direction, but from a different perspective.
So let's talk about that different perspective, because I do want to understand the Christian evangelical position.
Yes.
Do they subscribe to the theology that you've just laid out about the rebuilding of the third temple? Obviously, they do. Explain their expansive philosophy. Like, what is it they're looking for?
Well, generally speaking, when we speak about the evangelicals in the United States, who are now controlling, by the way, the current administration in the United States. We have the Minister of War believing in this, the Speaker of the House completely believe in this. We have the Secretary of State who believe in this as well. So we have some senators as well who are speaking about religious wars, about all of these fantasies, or actually believe in this. These parties believe actually in the same ideology that I mentioned before, that coincides with the ideology of the Tzionit Hadatit from a religious point of view, which is that the third temple has to be built so that the Messiah comes. So it's not about the temple descending from heaven and then the Messiah comes. No. They say that they believe that they are the hands of God and they have to build his house by force. And this is how God has to interfere and has to bring his Messiah. The only difference between the two parties is that the evangelicals believe that Jesus is the Messiah and he will come for the second time, whereas the religious Zionism stream in Israel believe that it will be for the first time. Now you might ask, so what? It's quite different. It's a very big difference. Yeah, but I remember I was reading an article a few days ago in Texas, published in Texas, about the red heifer issue, and the red heifer is quite interesting because they are the two people who are working together with this idea. One evangelical in Texas, and one Israeli Jewish rabbi.
So I wanted to ask you about the red heifer. Like, explain that.
Yeah,
to
I'm
me.
going to tell you about it now.
Yeah.
Inshallah, no problem. I'll tell you about it. But just it's quite interesting because in the text, when I was reading the article,
Yes.
it was mentioned that there are big differences between the Christians and the Jews with regard to the idea of the Messiah, because the Jews don't believe in Jesus as the Messiah. So the two people, Tahimamo and his friend, Tahimamo the rabbi in Israel, and his friend from Texas, the Texan friend, the Christian Texan friend, they decided to try to work together to bring the Messiah, and then we will find out if it was for the second time or for the first time. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Now, with regard to the red heifer, it is actually something related. It's not as central as it is now from the evangelical point of view. From the Jewish point of view, it is a ritual that has to be done in order to purify a person, in order to be able to enter the house of God or the Temple Mount. Now, it's quite interesting to note that the chief rabbinate of Israel bans Jews and everybody else from entering the Al-Aqsa mosque premises, or what they call the Temple Mount. So why? Because of purification problem. Now, the purification is something related to what is called the impurity of the dead. The dead person becomes impure. So if you touch a dead person or pass through the area where a dead person is, just touch the person, you become impure. Now, impurity in Judaism can be dealt with in different ways. But this impurity that is related to the dead has to be done in a certain way. That certain way happened. It was mentioned in the Talmud. It was mentioned at the time of Moses. For the first time, when God ordered Moses, according to this tradition, God ordered Moses to slaughter a red heifer that is completely red, with not a single piece of hair that is different. And not only that, this red heifer has to be clear of all problems. It must not be used for bluffing or for working. So even if you cannot even ride on it or stand on it, you cannot just put a rope on it. So with these very strict conditions, this red heifer, after it becomes of certain age, it has to be slaughtered to the east of the holy site, and after slaughtering it, the blood has to be sprinkled in seven times with certain prayers, and then this red heifer has to be burnt, and the ashes are used on water, on pure water, in order to sprinkle on anyone. If you sprinkle anyone, that person becomes pure. Now, according to the tradition in the Talmud, this tradition happened 9 times throughout history. The first time ever was done by Moses. Then I think it was Yeshua. And it happened many times, or 7 other times, until the last time it happened was 2,000 years ago, during the time of the Second Temple. Now, the Jewish tradition says that since 2,000 years until now, there has never been a red heifer that was born and raised in such areas. And it has to be born in the land of Israel. Okay. So it never happened. I remember in 2007, I think there was this red heifer that was born in Israel, and there was a big, massive issue. Now I can't remember 2007 or 2005. I can't remember. I was in Britain at that time, but I was just trying to check it. But after a few months, a few hairs of I think it was near the eyes changed the color to black, and then it was unlawful. So that was considered. So gradually it became the red heifer, the 10th red heifer became a sign from God. Eventually it was believed that it will be a sign from God. And it is believed, according to the Talmud, that the 10th red heifer will be slaughtered by the Messiah himself. So it will be the ultimate sign from God that he allows his people to enter the holy premises of the Temple Mount. This is why, throughout history, Jews believed that entering the premises of the Al-Aqsa Mosque is prohibited.
Right.
And this is why they never entered this.
Because you've got to wait for the Messiah.
Yes. You can. Why? Because you are impure. Because you are impure.
Yeah.
And you need this sign from God. So even since the time when the Muslims came, actually, the Muslims did not take Al-Aqsa Mosque from anybody. And Masjid Al-Aqsa was outside the city of Jerusalem. When Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu entered Jerusalem, the Al-Aqsa Mosque was outside the city.
Okay.
So he didn't take it from the Christians or from the Jews. And even after that, the Jews did not believe that they can enter this premises because they are impure at that time. They were impure. And this remained until our times. So this is why until today, you have 2 signs.
Yeah.
On the Moroccan gate and the gate of the chain, which are the south and western gates of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And these 2 signs are written in English and in Hebrew by the Chief Rabbinate of Israel that bans entering the premises of Al-Aqsa Mosque. That means that whoever provokes this and enters the Al-Aqsa Mosque, I'm speaking here about the Israeli fanatics of the religious groups of the temple, according to our understanding, they're actually breaking the Chief Rabbinate ruling. And by the way, they broke it because they had their own understanding of the idea of breaking this law by saying that we are the hand of God, and by coming here and doing all the rituals that were done in the temple, God will allow us to do the ultimate goal, which is building the temple and the coming of the Messiah. So Because of that, the idea of the red heifer has always been an idea that was taken care as a sign from God. Now, what happened with the red heifers that we speak about today
Yeah.
was that a few years ago, a fanatic, an evangelical fanatic from Texas, as I mentioned before, and he's a farmer, he was so possessed with this issue, and to the extent that he believes that God spoke to him. And when he was 14 years old, he believes that God spoke to him, and he heard news that one said to on one side of his head that I'm going to use him for the benefit or of this issue, and somehow he's not going to do that. It's just an illusion of being related to God. So he was so possessed with the idea of red heifers to the extent that he was trying to find a red heifer wherever. He found a mate, if I can call him, who had the same idea, possessed with the idea of the red heifer, believing that this is the time of the Messiah in Israel, which is the Rabbi Tzahimamu. And both of these two guys found many red heifers, according to their understanding, and they took it all the way to Israel. Now, the chief rabbinate, by the way, has a very major issue with this issue because it is believed that this red heifer has to be born in the land of Israel. And it has to be slaughtered in a certain way. And by the way, they brought 5. And I think 2 of them became unlawful. They developed different colors hair afterwards. And they had only 3. They slaughtered 1 and they have only 2 now ready.
Right.
So they are trying to do this in a certain way that was applied according to the Talmud. Now, the problem with this issue are 2. The first problem is that the chief rabbinate of Israel is not fully accepting this because these red heifers were not born in the land of Israel. And the second thing is that according to the tradition, the 10th red heifer has to be slaughtered by the Messiah. So Tzahimamu is not the Messiah. And his friend, the evangelical friend, is not the Messiah. But they believe, they are so possessed with the idea of the second coming of Jesus to the extent that the Speaker of the House in the United States brought Tzahimamu and his farmer friend, the Texan friend, to the National Day of Prayer. And on the 30th of January, I think 2024, I'm not sure, 2023 or 2024, I think 2024. And he gave them a whole half an hour to speak about it in front of, the elites of Washington, D.C. on the national fervor. This tells you how possessed these evangelicals with this idea and these fanatics with this idea. And this is dangerous. Why? Because when it comes to prophecies, when a prophecy comes, it happens. But to try to provoke this prophecy and try to make it happen by force is something dangerous because it means that you are going to go very far with these illusions and with these understandings.
But of course, there is a paradox here because Christian Zionists believe that when the third temple is built, and the Masjid al-Aqsa is destroyed, there would be, and the Messiah comes, there will be forced conversion of Jews during the apocalypse. So there is how do these 2 bedfellows get along when one believes in the extermination of the other ultimately?
It's interesting because each one of them believe that you are wrong, I'm right, you are wrong, I'm right.
Yeah.
So let's work together until the master comes and he solves the problem.
Right.
And he solves the problem between us. So when he comes, it is mentioned in the article that I mentioned. It is mentioned that, when he comes, he will solve the problem. We will know who is right and who is wrong.
This is an article you talked about off camera. Explain the article.
Yeah, it is an article was written by Andrew Logan at the Texas Monthly magazine in Texas. I read it and it was amazing because it took him 1 whole year working with that. I was in contact with him and he was in contact with many people actually on this issue. And he worked on this investigation for a whole year.
Yeah.
And it shows exactly, it exposes how these fanatics are so possessed with this idea. And by the way, being possessed with an idea, with an apocalyptic idea, becomes dangerous when you have power. Because you try to apply, to use your power, your ultimate power, in order to apply your own understanding of the prophecy. Muslims have prophecies. Christians have prophecies. Jews have prophecies. Hindus have prophecies. Now, the prophecy is not the problem. The problem is that once you have power, as strong as being, for example, the leader of the strongest army in the whole world and the biggest massive nuclear power in the whole world, and you believe that you have to bring the apocalypse to the whole world. That's the problem.
And you spoke earlier about Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of State for War
Yes.
in the United States. And I mean, from all accounts, he's a crusader. I mean,
He believes in God.
He believes in that. He gave a speech in 2017 about the demolition of Masjid al-Aqsa and replacement of the Third Temple.
He said exactly. He said that I don't think that there is. He said that for 1948 was a miracle.
Yeah.
1967 was a miracle.
Yeah.
2017, the Jerusalem as being capital of Israel was a miracle.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the miracle of building the temple cannot happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
I don't know when, I don't know how, but it will happen. Now, this fanatic now, that was in 2018, I think.
Yeah.
But now he controls the army. So you can imagine how crazy this world is.
Yes.
This
Yes.
issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds very crazy. Historically, Masjid al-Aqsa has been a focal point of Muslim anger. There was the 1929 riots,
That's right.
the Second Intifada. Do Israeli decision makers really believe that they can change the status quo of Haram al-Sharif without igniting another, explosion in the Muslim world? Or is it that they want this explosion?
Okay, first of all, I want just to have a note on the idea of the word Haram al-Sharif.
Right.
I don't like using this word because it is now used by the Israelis in order just to depict a false idea about Masjid al-Aqsa. It is all called Masjid al-Aqsa. It's not Haram al-Sharif. Why did I say that? If you check the website of the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs, you will find that their position, the position of Israel for the temple, or regarding the Temple Mount, which is Al-Aqsa Mosque, is that they use usually the word Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, as a different entity than Al-Aqsa Mosque. They claim that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the Qibli Mosque only, which is just a small building with a lead dome, with a black dome, in the southern part of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. They say that it is called the Qibli Mosque for us Muslims. The website says that the Temple Mount, or Haram al-Sharif, or the noble sanctuary, is a Jewish premises where the temple was there, blah, 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 etc. And they say that there are Muslim shrines in it, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is just a small building to the south, and at the southern corner of the Temple Mount, or Haram al-Sharif. And by the way, that's wrong, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the whole area. That building is only 4% of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The whole area is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And by the way, the Israeli government, in that website, they claim that the Dome of the Rock is not even a mosque. You see, even the Dome of the Rock, they do not believe in it as a mosque. They believe that it's just a dome. So this is what I wanted just to have this idea. Now, your question was?
It's about whether it's going to ignite like an explosion in the Muslim world.
Well, let me tell you something important here. Some people at the beginning of the Gaza war, some people started sending me messages, because I was always, as usual, because it's my specialty, speaking about what is happening in Al-Aqsa Mosque, concentrating on what is happening in Al-Aqsa Mosque, and trying to drive the attention of Muslims for what's happening in their mosque. A lot of Muslims used to send me messages or comments saying that, well, you are speaking about Al-Aqsa Mosque and no one is moving for Gaza, and people are dying and they are not going to work, and nobody moves. So why moving for just a mosque or a building?
Yeah.
That's something irrelevant to the idea. Why? Because Al-Aqsa Mosque is not in generally speaking here about historically, speaking, Al-Aqsa Mosque has never been considered as a building for Muslims or as stones that have got, a shape or a historical importance or something. No, or significance. It always have been an idea. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is an idea of having one of the three mosques. It is not the third holy site, by the way. It's not the third holiest site. That's wrong. In Islam, Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third mosque in regarding to the multiplication of prayer only.
Of rewards.
Of
Yes.
course, the rewards. Because we know that Masjid al-Haram is 100,000, Masjid al-Nabi is 1,000, and Al-Aqsa Mosque is 500 or 250, which is more accurate, by the way. But it is not in this way. It should not be tackled in this way. Al-Aqsa Mosque holiness is exactly the same as the holiness of the Kaaba. And it is exactly the same holiness of the Mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. So in regarding to holiness, the idea is the Al-Aqsa Mosque being one of the holiest sites in Islam, or one of the holy sites in Islam, because we have three equal holy sites when regarding to the holiness. Okay? So this is something that we need to understand. And this in this way, Muslims do not believe in Al-Aqsa Mosque as being just buildings and historical, with historical importance.
Heritage.
Yeah, they believe in Al-Aqsa Mosque as being an idea of a verse in the Quran. So when it comes to the Quran, Al-Quran mentioned Al-Aqsa Mosque by name in Surah Al-Isra. And believing in the importance of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and keeping it is exactly the same as believing in keeping the Quran. And we know that when it comes to the Quran, it's a sensitive issue for Muslims. Now, this is exactly the same with Masjid al-Aqsa. So this is why it always provoked the anger of Muslims to just even touch Masjid al-Aqsa. And this is, by the way, what Britain understood. During the British Mandate, one of the biggest revolutions that happened was the revolution of Al-Buraq in 1929, as you mentioned. Now, since that time, the British authorities had like a self-deterrence from the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And they believe that Al-Aqsa Mosque is an entity that we shall not provoke or come near. And it happened exactly the same during the Israeli occupation. Now, throughout the years of occupation, since 1967, I'm speaking about the occupation of the eastern side of the city of Jerusalem and the old city, which includes Al-Aqsa Mosque. Since 1967, we could find that Al-Aqsa Mosque has always provoked anger and provoked danger. In 1987, when the Intifada erupted, the first Intifada, the second eruption of the Intifada was after the massacre of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in 1990. So in 2000, the visit of Ariel Sharon to the Al-Aqsa Mosque erupted the second Intifada, which was called the Intifada of Al-Aqsa. And notice something. Throughout these 26 years, since 2000 until 2026, Al-Aqsa Mosque has almost always been the star of each and every problem erupted in Palestine. From 2000 and 2003, when the Israelis opened Al-Aqsa Mosque by force, and starting from the last 10 years, speaking about since 2015, from 2015 until 2025 or 2026 now, Al-Aqsa Mosque was the star or the reason for all the problems that happened in Palestine. All of them. In 2015, there was the eruption of the Intifada of Jerusalem. They called it the Intifada of the Knives at that time, when the Israelis prohibited the Ribat area, which is to protect the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the protectors of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Murabitun. And they prohibited them. And this erupted, this caused the Habbat al-Sakakin, as it was mentioned, or Habbat al-Quds, the eruption of the Intifada of Jerusalem or the Intifada of the Knives to erupt in Jerusalem 2015. In 2017, the eruption of the Intifada of the revolution of Bab al-Asbat happened, the metal detectors issue. In 2019, the eruption happened again in Bab al-Rahma, where my office used to be, and in Masjid Al-Aqsa, when it was about to be closed completely and changed into something different, and the Muslims revolted in Jerusalem. In 2021, so we can say that was every 18 months there was an eruption that is related directly to Masjid Al-Aqsa. In 2021, there was what was called Sayf al-Quds. The Palestinians called it the Battle of the Sword of Jerusalem, that actually provoked all over Palestine, everywhere, even inside the territories of Israel, the territories of 48. And that was in 2021. In 2023, the war that started in Gaza was actually the operation that started there, that happened there, was actually named after the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So that means that the Al-Aqsa Mosque was in the heart of the whole Palestinian movements for the last 10 years. That means that there is no reason whatsoever for Al-Aqsa Mosque not being the reason for another eruption. Especially that since the war in Gaza, we're witnessing a huge pressure on the Palestinian people in the West Bank, in Gaza, in Jerusalem by the Israelis, and they are just putting the people under huge pressure, and to the extent that eventually the people will explode.
Right.
Everything will explode. And this is not the thing that the Israelis today are understanding. Why? Because of what I mentioned before. Because we are not now living in the Israel of 2015 or 2017 or 2019 or 2021. We're living in the Zionist religious Israel, the Zionit Hadatit Israel. That is a new Israel. This new Israel under Smotrich and under Itamar Ben-Gvir, they want this eruption. They want actually this war. By the way, that doesn't mean that you shall not actually do anything to protect Masjid Al-Aqsa, or that also not to give them any excuse.
Yeah.
No. Why? Because they already want to destroy the mosque. So whether or not the Palestinian people erupt or revolt or whatever, this government has got this idea and they want to apply it. Whether or not the 7th of October happened or not, the Israeli government, the current government, because it was formed in 2022, remember, the 7th of October happened 7th of October 2023. So since 2022, they had this idea for Al-Aqsa Mosque. They had this idea and they wanted to apply it, and they still want to apply it because of religious understanding and because of the religious fantasy of having the Messiah coming this time. This is the new Israel. And this is why I always say that the current Israel, the new government in Israel, is not danger for the region or for the Palestinian people. It is a danger for the whole world, because they believe that in order to bring the Messiah, the whole world has to go towards war. And God will have to interfere at the last second. Now imagine, because we know it's a mythology, now imagine that they succeeded, God forbid, if they succeeded in dragging the whole world to that point by, for example, attacking Al-Aqsa Mosque or doing something stupid in this area, and God did not interfere. What will happen? We will certainly go to a destruction for the whole world. This is why I fear. And this is why I call for all human beings and all humanity and all governments in the world, stop this crazy government and their supporters in this crazy American administration, the new administration of Trump, because they are trying to take the world with them to a huge eruption. And we know that the Messiah will not come, because this is a mythology, with all respect to the ideology of whoever believes in that. But we know that the whole thing will take the whole world for a disaster.
Yeah. Dr. Abdullah, we also have mythology surrounding Jerusalem
Yes.
and the future of Jerusalem.
You're speaking about Muslim mythology.
Muslims, yeah. Can you lay that out? Like, what do we say about Jerusalem in the end of times or towards?
There is a very big difference here. Why? Muslims do believe in Jerusalem being related to the prophecies of the end of time, but in a different way. They believe that, according to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he put his hand on the head of Abdullah ibn Hawala, his companion. He said, "Ya ibn Hawala, I'm going to translate it. إذا رأيت الخلافة نزلت الأرض المقدسة فقد دنت الزلازل والبلايا والأمور العظام ولا الساعة يومئذ أقرب إلى أحدكم من يد هذه على رأسك." If you find the caliphate, if you see the caliphate gets inside the Holy Land, which is Jerusalem and around it, then the end of time is near. And then the earthquakes, big problems, and the great fitan are going to happen. And the day of judgment is closer at that time to any one of you, more than my hand. My hand is on your head. So what does this imply? It implies that at the end of time, Jerusalem will be considered as, according to the understanding of the hadith, the muhaddithin, the scholars of hadith, that Jerusalem will be at the end of time. It will be the capital of Muslims, of a Muslim entity throughout history. Now, when is this going to happen? No one knows. Now, if somebody comes and say, "Well, I will do this. I will do it now because of this hadith," it actually happened 1,200 years ago when the Abbasids actually started their revolution against the Umayyads in the east, in Khorasan in Persia, and they had their flags in black. Why? Because there was a hadith speaks about the end of times that says that if you see the black flag coming from the east or from Khorasan area, then follow it because there is the Mahdi within it. So they actually did it, but we know that it was not the Mahdi at that time. So it does not affect the text itself.
Yeah.
Why? The Prophet Muhammad taught the Muslims a methodology to deal with these prophecies.
Yes.
It is well known that the Prophet Muhammad mentioned the false Messiah many times, or al-Masih al-Dajjal in Arabic. Now, it is said, according to hadith, I think it was in al-Bukhari, I'm not sure. I think it is in al-Bukhari. It was mentioned that there was a person in Medina named Ibn Sayyad who looked exactly the same as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ described.
Yeah.
He met exactly this description of the false Messiah with regarding to the sheep, because he has one of his eyes is closed and etc. So Umar ibn Khattab thought that this person is the Antichrist or the false Messiah. He asked the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said, "I don't know. He might be and he might not be." So even the Prophet, they didn't know when this is going to happen. So what did Umar say? "Ya Rasulullah, darni aqtulu." "O Messenger of God, let me kill him." And that's it. What did the Prophet say? According to this hadith, he said, "Leave him, Umar. If it was him, the false Messiah or the Antichrist, you will not be able to kill him. Because it will happen. It is a prophecy and it will happen. And if you killed him, if you were able to kill him, then it's not him. And so why kill him? Killing an innocent person." So that is the idea. Now, the Prophet is telling us that we shall not try to bring these prophecies.
Yeah.
I know that the Bible has got many prophecies. The Quran has got many prophecies. The Gospel, the book of John, the vision of John, has got many prophecies. It is not up to us as human beings to create the circumstances that will lead these prophecies to happen. Because in this case, these prophecies will not be done. In order for a prophecy to be applied, it has to be applied by the ultimate will of God. This is from a Muslim understanding, from a Muslim perspective.
Yeah.
You cannot interfere with that. You cannot claim that I will do it. So when the Abbasids actually went to Khorasan and they started their revolution from Khorasan in order to match the hadith, the majority of, or actually all, not the majority only, of the scholars of hadith rejected that, and they said that is not what the hadith was speaking about. It speaks about some time in history. And there is another thing in methodology, in the methodology of studying the prophecies in Islam, it's quite important, which is that whenever a prophecy, in order to be applied, according to the Muslim perspective, it has to be forgotten. It has to be forgotten and not be weighted at that time.
Really?
Now, this is what happened, for example, during the time when Uthman radiallahu anhu was assassinated.
Yeah.
Because Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha said that one day the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called Uthman radiallahu anhu, his companion, the third Muslim caliph, and he started telling him something in secret. And Uthman's face was changing. Means that it was something fear, and there was fear on his face. And at the end, she heard the Prophet saying, "Oh Uthman, God will put a cloak on you, or get you a clock," which means the caliphate, by the way. It was just a metaphor for the caliphate.
Yeah.
So if the hypocrites try to convince you or try to let you by force to take it off, do not do that until you meet me. What means until you die. So the continuation of the hadith, she mentioned that after the death of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So one person was sitting listening and he said, "Ya al-Mu'mineen, oh mother of the believers, why didn't you tell us before?" She said, "I forgot what happened and I remembered it now after the death of Uthman." So in order for this prophecy to be done, she had to forget it. And this is the same exactly. It is, Muslims do believe in the Antichrist or the false Messiah.
Yeah.
Now, we cannot just come and say that the false Messiah is coming and this time I'm going to do everything for the false Messiah to come in order to Jesus come back, because Muslims believe that Jesus Isa alayhi salam will come back earth to earth. So it is not up to me to do everything and let God and choose for God when the false Messiah would come. It's not up to you. But that's the problem with these fanatic groups.
I understand.
They're trying to decide on behalf of God.
Yeah.
And this is why I just wonder, who the heck are you to decide for the Lord, for God, when God's prophecies are going to be applied?
Yeah.
It's not up to you. And that's the danger. This is why I'm sure 100% that whatever is being done now is not a miracle. And it's not related to the prophecies that are mentioned. If I take the prophecies in the Bible for granted, if I consider them as right prophecies, I don't believe that a person like Smotrich or Tzahimamo or Ben Gvir or Yehuda Glick or any one of these fanatics is in a position of forcing God to fulfill the prophecies that they believe in at the time that they want.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So my final question to you, Dr. Abdullah, this has been fascinating, by the way, really. Jazakallah khair. My final question to you is, the thinking Muslim is very much about informing people, and we've done that today, alhamdulillah. But it's also about activating people. We don't just want to be informed and we allow fate, in inverted commas, to take over. We want to be able to affect the way in which we think and act in these coming days and weeks and months. So my question is, what can we do? Like, what should we be doing now? If Masjid al-Aqsa is in imminent danger, how can we be acting to prevent that from happening?
Now, it's quite an important question, actually. The first thing is that we need to raise the deterrence factor here. Now, the whole world must understand that provoking the entity of the Al-Aqsa Mosque or attacking the entity of the Al-Aqsa Mosque is not something easy. It's a serious issue. And if it happens, or a religious war is being declared against the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the whole world will go in chaos. Why? Because they know, the whole world, the politicians know. Of course, I'm not speaking of the politicians now in the Israeli government, the current Israeli government, or the current American administration, because I mentioned that they were so religious fanatics here. But I'm speaking to the whole world, to the other world, to the other leaders who still have this wisdom in order not to drag the whole world into a religious war that will destroy everything and everyone for vague, for nothing. It is up to us to put a pressure on our politicians around the world. And here's not speaking to Muslims. I'm speaking to everyone around the world, because I mentioned that, and I mentioned that this government and these fanatics are not danger to Palestine, are not danger to Jerusalem, are not danger to the Al-Aqsa Mosque only. And they are not even danger for the region itself only. They are danger to the whole world, because this is what they believe in. They believe in the world chaos. And it's up to us to put a pressure over our politicians to stop them. The second thing is that we need to get the idea of the problem of Al-Aqsa Mosque and the issue of Al-Aqsa Mosque to the top priorities of our lives. And here I'm speaking about the Muslims in particular, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque is not a Palestinian entity. It is a Muslim entity. It belongs to 2 billion Muslims around the world. And not a single person in Jerusalem or in Palestine has the right to give even just a small piece of the Al-Aqsa Mosque without the complete acceptance of the whole Muslims around the world. And I don't think that the whole Muslims will just accept that. And that means that, again, it is not only that, it is the responsibility of each and every Muslim around the world to take over to the task of protecting the Al-Aqsa Mosque with all means. Why? Because when it comes to the entity of the mosque and being in danger now, and in imminent danger, it shows us that the whole world is in imminent danger, and our presence as Muslims in the whole world is in imminent danger as well, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque is part of our religion, it's part of our faith. And this is why it is up to us to do our task in protecting the Al-Aqsa Mosque from every and each danger that might be happening. And by the way, this has to be done in all the means that we can do. For example, a lot of people used to ask me, can we just, what if we go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and protect it? I used to tell everybody, if you can go and protect the Al-Aqsa Mosque by yourself, by being present there, by being present and praying inside the Al-Aqsa, it is up to you as well, and it's your duty to go there in order to protect it by being there inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Yes. However, I remember that starting from 2023, on May 2023, the Israeli government they shifted their way of dealing with the Muslim visitors from outside Palestine. And by the way, they started with the British Muslims.
Really?
They started claiming that you are tourists. You are not Muslims. You are not considered as Muslims. So you are considered as tourists. So if you want to enter Masjid Al-Aqsa, you have to enter at the times where there is no prayer, which is just in the morning after the Fajr prayer, at the time of the intrusions inside Masjid Al-Aqsa. So whenever there are visitors or the settlers who are entering the Masjid Al-Aqsa or tourists inside Masjid Al-Aqsa, you are welcome. But for praying, no, you cannot enter. I had many reports from British visitors who reported this. And I remember that I wrote an article on this. I published an article said that Israel is redefining Muslims, claiming that Muslims means Palestinians only.
And why British Muslims?
Why? They started with the British Muslims because they were the hardest to deal with. because they are British. And you know, there is a special relationship with Britain.
Yeah.
And by the way, after the British Muslims, they applied this for the South African Muslims. Then they started applying it for the Turkish Muslims. And this is now being applied for every single one. Now, at the beginning of Ramadan, we know that it has been applied for all the Palestinians, all the Muslims. And since the beginning of the war in Iran, everything is stopped because we all are banned from entering our beloved mosque, unfortunately, by the Israeli forces. So it is up to us to teach our children, teach our communities, teach our Muslim, Christian, Jewish communities of what is happening. Because I mentioned before, not all, for example, when it comes to the Jewish communities, not all the Jewish communities believe in what these fanatics are doing. Not all Jewish communities accept. I'm not here speaking about Israel as a political entity. I'm speaking here about the ideas that are being applied by the fanatics who are now ruling Israel. Now, not all the Jewish communities believe in that. And as well, when it comes to Christians, not all Christians believe in the evangelical understanding of this issue. And not all of them believe in the red heifer as the Speaker of the House, for example, believes in America. So it is up to us to educate the world and make a huge pressure over the politicians around the world in order to expose what is being done and what is being happening in Jerusalem for the past 2 years and in the last 10 days until the moment that we're speaking here today. So in this way, we can apply pressure over those who think that they can do whatever they want without any consequences because they believe that they are acting on behalf of God, and stop them from taking the whole world to the chaos that they want to. And that is our duty. And this is the duty of the leaders of the whole world. Whether these leaders were Muslims, Christians, Jewish, Hindus, Buddhists, or even if they do not believe in God, atheists. It is up to us to protect humanity from fanaticism, from fanatics who believe in fantasies, on religious fantasies, and they want to take the whole world with them to chaos. Because they believe that chaos is the way for the end of the world. And that is actually what they want. And we don't want the end of the world. I don't want the end of the world. I want peace in the world. And that is what we all need to do. Not peace by dragging the world to the edge of a world war as these few fanatics are believing in. No, it is by stopping them from taking us with them. Because we know that when the world happened before, that when the world did not stop fantasies like that, a 200 years war erupted in the region during the Franks Wars or the Crusades. And it made a huge crack between the East and the West that is being remembered until today, unfortunately. And this is what Karen Armstrong, for example, said in her book, Jerusalem, One City, Three Faiths. Now, we don't want this very hard experience to be done again. And we don't want to witness this experience again, because in this time, with the technology that the world is having, and these crazy people are having now, it will not be just a war that is being done on a specific way. It will be destruction for the whole humanity. So save humanity by saving Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Dr. Abdallah Marouf, on that note, Jazakallah khair, and thank you so much for a really informative interview.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me again. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. Now you've reached the end of this show, and the fact that you've stayed until the very end tells me that you truly believe in our work. Please consider making a one-off donation or becoming a member by visiting thinkingmuslim.com/membership. Now your contributions give you exclusive behind-the-scenes access and the ability to ask questions to our guests, and monthly calls with myself, my team, and our guests like Sami Hamdi. Jazakallah khair, and keep us in your du'as.